Paul Perkins and Devonte Booker have moved on to the NFL, but the Pac-12 bringing back a load of talent at running back, as is typically the case. We bring in Mike Regalado from Gojo Bruin and also Don King from Last Word on Sports. Guys, it's always a good time breaking down personnel in the Pac-12, and we're talking about the very best when we talk running back, especially at what I expect to be the top of the board for both of you guys. So, Mike, we'll start with you on your top 5 backs heading into 2016.
Okay, I'm going to go start with number 5, and even though I think UCLA has a wicked three-headed monster with Bolu Olorunfemi, Nate Starks, and Soso Jamabo, one of them's going to be the clear-cut number 1 back, and I think that's Soso Jamabo. He's a tall back, he's skinny, had some freshman moments last year, but also dazzled Bruin fans at different times throughout the year. The thing about him is that in spring he looked a little bit stronger. He looked like he was able to have a better center of gravity and hit the gaps a little bit better than he did in his freshman year. So that's a plus. And just seeing the kind of skill that he has and the speed is definitely one of my top 5 running backs, and he's at number 5. Number 4, Myles Gaskin out of Washington. He just actually impressed me. He's a very patient runner. He knows where the gaps are, and just looking at his tape, it looks like he's not running that fast at all, but in reality, he's just blowing past the competition. So I think he's going to have a really big year as well. Number 3, Ronald Jones from USC. When I see those colors just flash across the screen, it just gives me flashbacks of Reggie Bush, and that's not a good thing for a UCLA supporter. So just seeing how he can make these quick cuts and get to the outside or find the gap is just amazing. He's going to be a pest for a lot of defenses, and as a UCLA supporter, I'm just definitely not looking forward to meeting him at the end of the season. Number 2, Royce Freeman out of Oregon. He's just an experienced back. He knows how to get it done. They had some issues with the quarterback, just not being consistent with quarterback, and he was the one player that actually not one player, but he was one that was able to get it done every time the ball was put in his hands. And number 1, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, Christian McCaffrey. I don't care what the AP says or whoever the Heisman voters. He was definitely the player of the year last year. He should have got the Heisman. Whether it was East Coast bias, East Coast writers not getting to see Stanford play as much, they need to wake up this year, or at least stay awake this year, and just see what Christian McCaffrey can do, because he's very strong, he's very smart, and he's just going to run over the Pac-12 again this year. So, a little bit strong. There are a lot more running backs, I think, a lot more stronger running backs than there are quarterbacks this year, but for the most part, it's just going to be fantastic, up and down the Pac-12.
Yep.
Well, Mike, I fully agree with you that Christian McCaffrey should have won the Heisman Trophy. It's well documented across the board on this panel that we all would have voted that way. I also think, after listening to those names, that UCLA offensive coaches could win spelling bees pronouncing the names and writing out the names of those UCLA running backs that are now replacing Paul Perkins.
Oh, yeah, my favorite, Bolu Olorunfemi. Oh, love that one.
Wow. That's where I basically just ask you, Mike, set us up for the UCLA running game.
Done.
Nice.
All right, Don. I'm going to guess we're pretty secure at number 1, but I'm interested to hear 5 through 2, and then you wax eloquently on the top spot as well.
Yeah, I've got some slight differences. First of all, I'm going to come in at number 5 with Nick Wilson of Arizona, because I think this kid is a terror. I think he's really good, really dynamic, incredibly versatile, hard to get down on the ground. So I had a hard time leaving him off my top 5, and I'm going to have him sneak into the top 5 there. At number 4 is Ronald Jones at SC. I agree with everything Mike said. The kid is electric and hard to get down. The one concern I've got with him, I think SC is going to have a bit of a two-headed monster too with Ronald Jones and Justin Davis, and I think getting those carries split could work to the detriment of Mr. Jones and his personal glory, but I think he's definitely one of the top 5 backs in the conference. Number 3, I've got Oregon's Royce Freeman. That kid is something else, heck of a football player. Fantastic pro prospect when that time comes. He made a huge difference last year in stabilizing Oregon's offense as they worked through some, quarterback difficulties either due to injury or ineffectiveness. And he figures to be a very dynamic part of what's always a very dynamic offensive attack in this coming season. Number 2, I've got Myles Gaskin at Washington. He terrifies me. That kid, he scares me every time he gets the ball. I know I've got him ranked significantly higher than Mike did, and it's not that Mike doesn't think highly of him. I just think that much of his ability, and I think Washington this year with a second-year starter, a stable offensive line from game 1 onward, I think he's going to have an unbelievable year, and I think he's going to turn a lot of heads, not just on the West Coast, but also nationally. And there's no mystery. My number 1 will be Christian McCaffrey. I don't think there's any question that he was the best college football player in the nation last year. Yeah, he broke Barry Sanders' all-purpose yardage record by 600 yards on fewer touches. Yeah, I know he was a returner also, but I mean, come on. He broke a record that stood for decades by 600 yards. So it frustrates me that I even have to defend him like that, but it is what it is. I think he's clearly the best returning running back in the Pac-12 this year.
And it would be one thing if he was doing this at San Diego State. He played a killer schedule.
Yep.
That's all there is to it. Stanford, Pac-12, plus playing Notre Dame, Northwestern. Yes, played a loaded schedule. Yes. Great points as always, both of you. Don, in particular, I like your points on Nick Wilson. I just pulled up his game log here. Of course, we talked in the previous segment on quarterbacks. Anu Solomon hurting last year, injured, part of Arizona's decline from the previous season when they went to the Fiesta Bowl. Nick Wilson, also the same storyline there and narrative when he gained close to 1,400 yards, 17 touchdowns the year before. Last year, had a big game in the Pac-12 opener. Mike will remember this. Although the Bruins routed the Wildcats, he hit up the Bruins for $136, and then had a subpar game against the Stanford front seven that he couldn't deal with. Then he got hurt and was really never the same, only carried the ball 18 times after that. So hopefully we can see Nick Wilson play a complete season for Arizona. Actually, at number 5, I'm going to Mario Richard out of Arizona State.
That's solid.
100 yards, 7 touchdowns, caught 31 balls out of the backfield for the Sun Devils, and will need to be even more prominent with a new quarterback in place this season. Myles Gaskin. Don talked about it. This kid was not much heralded coming out of high school. He was a 3-star recruit and behind an offensive line that was just coming into its own last year. We saw the Washington offense improve. He was a big reason why, 1,300 yards. Interesting to note, Trey Adams at left tackle, one of the up-and-coming top linemen in the conference and 4 starters back. Could be a big year for Browning and Gaskin for that Washington offense. Ronald Jones, you said it very well, Mike, right out of the gate. A blur across the screen. Man, this kid's fun to watch. Gained just shy of 1,000 yards. Not many carries, tons per carry. 7 touchdowns on the season. And, Don, you alluded to it. Justin Davis, a guy who has, from the time he stepped on campus as a freshman, has been pretty integral. Not a star player, but integral in the running game, and they provide just a pretty stellar 1-2 punch for USC. I think the 2 guys have distinguished themselves, maybe the number 1 guy, then the number 2 guy, and then the rest of the pack. Royce Freeman, this guy's a beast out of Oregon. He stepped onto campus, immediately gained 1,000 yards, even though he was sharing carries at the time with Byron Marshall. Now it's his football, and he gained 1,900 yards, close to it last year. Had an exceptional season, and we will see him play in the NFL, no question. Christian McCaffrey, best player in the game. You may, guys, jump on me for this one. So I recently rated the 10 best running backs in college football. I made a distinguishing point between player and running back with the return game not in the mix. And I gave Leonard Fournette, Dalvin Cook a slight edge on that one over Christian McCaffrey as pure running back. But he caught 41. He gained 2,000 yards rushing. And, Don, you nailed it in regards to just the complete player. And what he did was just jaw-dropping.
Yep.
So if he can do that and do it for a team that doesn't have to be undefeated but is in the mix, definitely in the Pac-12 but on the national scale, and provides, and I have no doubt he's going to do this, provides us with about 3 to 5 plays that are just like wow.
Yep.
Hopefully in big moments for him, then he can possibly bring home the hardware that he should have won in 2015. All right, guys, it's always a pleasure. Great breakdown on the best running backs in the Pac-12. Mike Regalado from Gojo Bruin and also Don King from Last Word on Sports. Guys, always appreciate the breakdown.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.